Thanks for joining us for the episode 171 after show. This one is quite a bit shorter than the main episode, but we talk a little bit about the current state of temple wishes in Jerusalem. Just like the main show, the video on this is absolutely terrible. We did get the whole thing, so there's no graphic at the end like there was with the main show video, but I'm putting it up anyway. It's video only, so as bad as it is, that's the way to listen to the show. The audio is just fine. So hope you'll enjoy this after show. It'll be about 20 minutes long. And like I said, the audio is fine. Video's terrible, but enjoy anyway as best you can. Thanks. All right. Well, hopefully the video for our after show works a little better than the video for the main show. Had some problems on that, but so we kind of left the show talking about kind of the current dynamic over there with the temple, and why don't you pick us up on and as of July of 2022, what does it look like with the temple situation?
Well, admittedly, it's been a while since I've been to Israel now. 2020 was the last time I was there. So
yeah, you just kind of squeaked back in.
Right.
You were there
March,
right as the
doors were coming down.
Yeah. The 15 days was just starting.
Yeah.
When you got back.
Right. The 2 weeks.
2 weeks to slow the spread.
Right. That was just starting when 2
years to kill an economy.
Right. When we got back, and so a lot of the attention of, as far as the last several years or last 2 years plus years has been COVID and COVID related. It still doesn't mean that there isn't just a very, big conflict still going on over the Temple Mount. There definitely is a desire that has been growing and is growing of those in Israel that would want to be back up on the Temple Mount. And I don't know if it is as much, and when it comes to the populace, I don't think it's as much of I want to go offer sacrifices. I think it's more people are saying that we can't, that we're forbidden, and this is our heritage.
It's our country. Why can't we?
Our country, our heritage. And so I think there's a lot of within the Jewish populace that kind of see things that way. So it is an interesting dynamic. Now, we from a premillennial perspective see that a temple that comes before the return of Christ is predicted in the scriptures. So it isn't something that we're eagerly anticipating in the sense that we want a temple to go back up because we want to partake. It's a sign. It's a sign that has to occur. At least what has to happen is there needs to be a place of sacrifice, because it's said that this abomination of desolation that Jesus spoke of, that we see as yet future in association in accordance with 1 Thessalonians chapters 1 1 Thessalonians chapters 4 and 5 and 2 Thessalonians chapters 1 and 2, we see that the Olivet Discourse is related to his second coming, not the destruction of the temple in the first century. So we expect this to happen, and there needs to be, in accordance with Daniel, a place of sacrifice, because it says he puts an end to the daily sacrifice. Mm-hmm. So it is a point of interest. It's a point of watching, because when that goes up, then further things likely are going to unfold with that temple. I say likely because there's nothing definitive saying that this temple couldn't be destroyed, and there's another temple that comes later that is actually the one that fulfills.
Yeah.
So you need to be careful with that. But I do think that
I think the biggest thing, and I think there's in a general evangelical Christian sphere, people tend to, I think, kind of look forward to this temple being built.
Right.
And I know for a time I kind of did too. I thought, oh, that would be neat. The Jews would get their temple. And
Yeah.
there'd be something kind of neat about that. And I think it was years ago that it might've been the 2014 trip that we took, but maybe before that even, that you were the one that pointed out that no, like go read Hebrews. That's not good. We don't
want people returning to the elements of the old covenant. We want people
Right.
to turn to Christ. And because the law saves no one. And that's one thing that was demonstrated through biblical history. And even the temple, I stated kind of at the beginning that the temples are kind of an indication of where Israel is at. And Israel hasn't entered into her rest, hasn't entered into the new covenant because she's still scattered and the house still lies desolate. And once Israel enters the new covenant, then that house is going to be made glorious. And so that's going to be an indicator of Israel's status before her Messiah. And once she as a nation enters into that eternal covenant with the Lord through the new covenant, then never again is there going to be an abomination of desolation or anything like that, or desolation, or armies running through the land or trampling the holy city. That's done forever.
Yeah. Now, in the couple trips I've taken over there with you, it seems like things get moving along more and more. The first time I was over there with you was 2014. And actually I was there in 2002. Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing is that big menorah is always in a different spot every time I go there.
Yeah.
When I went in 2002, they had the menorah, the one that will go in the temple, just a massive gold menorah. Yeah. I mean, and it's
worth $2 million, I think, is what.
And it's always amazed me that it's just there.
Yeah. It amazes me too, because it seems to me, it seems like it would be a point of great contention that it's sitting there that close. Because when I've been there, it's been twice. Once it was closer, and it moved a little bit farther back into the Jewish.
Right.
But it's still really close to the Temple Mount.
Well, the first time I went, it was like in this old Roman road. I mean, it was in the Jewish quarter, but it was kind of just like really out of the way.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, if we went back there again, I don't know if I could show you where I saw it the first time, because it was really out of the way. You know, it was, I remember it being kind of one of those, like, it was physically lower, was down under kind of in one of these, this was an old Roman part of the city areas. And then when we went in 2014, that's when it was like, if you could see, you could stand at the menorah and look at the Temple Mount, the Western Wall. And you're right. And in 2019, they moved it back a little bit, but it's almost more on display where it was in 2019.
Right.
Because it was right in the busiest part of the Jewish quarter.
Yep. Yeah, it's up by an old synagogue.
And Aaron talked about how the significance of why it got moved and how it was a big deal to move it. And
it's it's a fascinating thing to see, and that's why. And the thing that's hard, it's very hard unless you know somebody over there. Or you go over there yourself and talk to people that are in the know. It's very hard to really actually get, because this isn't something that gets reported on the Jerusalem Post or, of course, even in the U.S. Media. None of this stuff gets reported, or there is even an eye on it. And even in the major Israeli, news cycles that you have, you might, if they moved it, there might be a little bit of a thing, but as far as the movement towards a temple, the only time you really kind of see that is if there's some sort of a change in the status quo, or a suggested change in the status quo on the Temple Mount, because then there is a great upheaval. Now, the status quo is the way they describe the state of the Temple Mount, because in 1967, they, during the 6-Day War, they actually pushed the Arab armies back. And they, famously said, the Temple Mount is in our hands. And then they gave, as a token of goodwill, they gave stewardship over to the Jordanians and a collection of Arabs. And that is then the status quo, is that stewardship is given to Arabs on the Temple Mount. And, but, officially it's still Jewish land or territory. And so that's obviously a point of contention. And when people that are Jews that want to go up to the Temple Mount, which I've been up there. I don't know if you have, but I've been up there.
We went up there in 2014.
Okay. No, I know, but have you been up there when there's actually Jewish families that come up during?
No, we had, when we filmed the Jerusalem's King, we went up there for a little bit, but it was like an hour and a half or something.
Yeah. We've been up there a couple times where Jewish families go up and walk the Temple Mount and they get shouted down. It's almost that, it's what they do. Every Arab that is up there will scream at the families that are up there. It's tense because they'll be screaming Allahu Akbar, to these, these.
It's kind of a similar spirit to what you read about in like Nehemiah, where
they're very much so.
They're having to have a sword in one hand and they're.
Yep. And they have police, IDF escorts, take them through that. But over the last few years, there's been, a good chunk of specific conflicts. I remember this was a year or two ago, they wanted to, put up more security cameras in Israel. Wanted to put more security cameras up on the Temple Mount, and that almost started World War III because they saw that again. They said, "Well, this isn't the status quo," and the stirring of violence was very palpable, and they ended up, ditching that.
It seems to me that's not the first time.
Probably isn't
that they've specifically on security cameras.
Yeah, probably not. But the thing is, they don't want to be. There was somebody that got a gun up there, I believe, and that's why they wanted to do that.
That's quite a
yeah, yep. And so they wanted to get more security cameras up there to be able to thwart that. But
yeah, that's quite something, because if I remember correctly, certainly to go down near the Western Wall, you got to go through security and magnetometers and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's for us. That would be for the
hoi polloi.
Yeah, the tourists that are entering in, not necessarily because
we have to go through that again when you go from there up onto the Temple Mount. Go through to magnetometers again.
Yeah. But there are other ways that I think worshipers might go in.
Well, I suppose if people went in the way we came out, there was no magnetometers on the exit.
Right. Yeah, so I don't,
So we left through the north side. You come in kind of on the west side.
Yep. Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic. I'm glad I'm not part of the security security detail because that is, again, it's a combustible place. Just and I'm sure there's been a lot of stuff that's gone on that I haven't heard about.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I was going through some pretty rough anxiety, kind of at end of 2020 and into the early part of 2021 with, a stolen election and a lot of the dynamic going around in the world. It really looked to me like this, not necessarily is, but could easily become the setting the stage for an Antichrist to come in and give them the temple and
still could
start that. Oh yeah, definitely still could. I think the anxiety level's gone down quite a bit, but at least for me. But Steve Gretsch came over and did a show with me on we talked about conspiracy theories and stuff, and because some of that, and it was really focused on like your QAnon stuff. We didn't
Yeah.
we didn't name it really. If I recall correctly, we didn't name QAnon, but
Right.
we talked about it in a sense of how dangerous it can be.
Well, 90% of conspiracy theories are quackery, but then you got 10% that are real.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, you see that over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And the time frame between it's a conspiracy theory to no, we proved it right.
Right.
Gets shorter and shorter.
No, exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. I think it's a time period, for us to always keep, it's always our time to be vigilant, to be alert, to be sober. But yeah, as far as the signs,
I think a big part
return.
of my anxiety is just like being pre-wrath and now understanding that like we're likely going to see a lot of that 70th week of Daniel and we're going to be here. And I'm under no impression that I'm going to survive to the coming of the Lord, that it's going to be bad. And I mean, it's going to be hard to survive.
Right.
And just the anxiety is like, how do I get a family of 6 through as far as I can and be faithful?
Well, that's why it's called the Great Tribulation. Never before and never again.
Right.
And that's why it's something that's been warned about several times in the scriptures. It's like for the generation that meets this is, I've told, like he says, I've told you in advance.
Yeah.
I've told you in advance. So love not your lives even unto death.
Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting to see, and I know our mutual friend, Tom Bedford, really tracks this stuff. And I almost need an after show with Tom and talk about it. Because it seems like every time I see him, he's got new news. I mean, he can follow stuff like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, quite a bit.
But I think one of the biggest thing that really has always lasted with me was that 2014 trip going into the Temple Institute.
Yeah.
And having that guy explain what they were looking for. And of course our group's jaws hit the floor.
Yeah.
He's describing like, we think our Messiah is going to give us our temple. And
yeah, we were at the Temple Institute, which is the place that has all of basically the turnkey ready stuff for the temple, that once that goes up, they have all of the accoutrements and that which is needed. And, just the things that they were saying that they wanted, which is just, like you said, we're
wondering like, we get that you're Jew and you're not reading the New Testament. We get that, but you haven't read Daniel.
Right. Right. And not only that, it's just like you're repeating what we totally would expect you to have in your heart and mind in regards to the reception of the deception that is coming.
Well, and that's like, it ties back into this anxiety I was talking about. I sometimes get anxiety having my worldview proven right in front of my eyes,
Yeah.
You want to just believe that, well, people aren't as bad as we know the scriptures say they are.
Yeah.
We understand total depravity, but we don't really want to believe it in our day-to-day lives.
Right.
And seeing how what the scripture says we are just shoved in our face sometimes.
Yeah.
It causes that causes me anxiety sometimes.
Well, and then that's what we see in our world right now. It's just
exactly
the levels of depravity just keep being revealed.
Right.
The hearts are being revealed every day more and more. The boldness, the shaking of the fist to God, even just the gnashing of teeth, the frustration against the Lord is palpable.
But I think what got me to pull through and out the other side, and Steve was a big help on this, was that when my worldview is being proved right on the wickedness, but it also demonstrates that the promises are to be believed as well. And
right. It's prophecy that prophesied all these things also says this is going to actually be short. It really is going to be short.
Well, Steve was a big help
compared to what's coming.
Steve came and did that show with me, and I think it was March of 2021, and he enjoyed it so much he ended up starting his own podcast.
Oh, really?
He does one now, and it's really good. It's called A Different Drummer, because he plays the drums, but he called it A Different Drummer.
Yep.
And he does 2-3 a week, but they're like 10 minutes or less sometimes. and they're just about the promises of God.
Oh, cool.
So he'll go through and read, a piece of scripture that has a promise in it, and then he'll reflect on what that promise means and how, we should just embrace it and whatnot. And it's really good. So
Cool.
Look up A Different Drummer. But, anything else for after show?
I'm dry right now.
You got water right there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, No,
All right.
I think, not to the front of my mind right now.
All right. Well, thanks for coming for the regular show and for staying for the after show.
Yep. No extra charge.
All right.